I really enjoyed making that top 10 films of 2018 video, and I wanted to continue with that trend of positivity and sharing my love of film. So I decided I wanted to try a new idea. Basically, I am going to share with you my highlights of film watching from the last month. In this case, it's going to be January 2019. It's not going to include every single film I've watched, and it's not going to go insanely in depth about the films, but I'm hoping that they interest you enough that you check them out for yourself. So yeah, let's get started. This film won't be for everyone. It's slow and not exactly always easy to interpret what's happening. Hell, I even struggled in places to understand what was going on. However, the one thing I am certain about is that this film is gorgeous both visually and orally. The use of that really small frame makes for some really interesting imagery. Add to that some great performances from Rooney Mara and Casey Affleck, and you get this gorgeous film. Who knew a man covered entirely by a sheet could put in such a strong performance? This is such a visually stunning film. It's the result of several different aspects. The setting of 80s Italy, the cinematography, the color grade, all of this comes together to create something truly wonderful. Both Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer absolutely knock it out the park as Elio and Oliver. There's a few decisions throughout that I'm not 100% sure on, specifically a weird use of effects at a certain point in the film, and the relationship between Elio and Oliver isn't always clear, but I enjoyed the film enough to overlook these aspects, and the soundtrack has become a mainstay in my writing playlist. Big Coen Bros fan, though it had been a while since I had actually watched a film of theirs and really enjoyed it, and I was starting to worry, but then I watched this one and was reminded exactly why I love the Coens. I find this film narratively interesting. Larry Gopnik, who's played by Michael Stolberg, I think that's how you say his name, basically acts as the punching bag for the writers, and they just throw everything at him and make his life absolutely miserable, and he has no control. It ends up being quite darkly comic. Some may even consider it schadenfreude. It's nice having a character you can actually emphasize with. You feel terrible for this guy, and it's helped greatly by Michael's performance. This is also one of the Coen Brothers' best looking films. That's not saying a whole lot, because the films aren't exactly drop dead gorgeous a lot of the time, but this film is very good looking. There's a lot of use of shallow focus, and it works really well. Roger Deakins is one of the best cinematographers alive, and the fact that you didn't get recognition from the Oscars until 2018 says a lot about the Academy. I'll address that in the future. Speaking of the Oscars, my next two entries are actually Best Picture nominees. A very solid film. Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper both put in award-worthy performances, and they have wonderful chemistry. It's also a really good looking film, like really good looking, especially the performance parts. I love it. The one thing I'm not fond of is the actual music in this film, but that's just because it's not to my taste. It is kind of interesting seeing this as a modern retelling of a story that's actually been remade multiple times. So it's interesting seeing the modern, up-to-date look at the music industry and the craft that surrounds it. I mean, for God's sake, they have an SNL section on here. They brought Alec Baldwin in just to present one section of the film. It's kind of bizarre, but it's a decent film. Better than some of the nominees. Probably the most controversial entry on this list, but fuck it, I enjoyed the film. And we need more positivity in film, to be honest. Sure, it's tropey as shit. Tony Lip is the biggest Italian stereotype going, but to be honest, Mashallah Ali and Vigo really make it work. Their chemistry is wonderful. Their performances, while stereotypical, are great. And yes, again, narratively, it's tropey. The cultured lonely guy teaches the guy from the streets of a heart of gold lessons while they teach each other lessons. Yeah, whatever. But it's a feel-good story. Who gives a shit? Yes, you got that issue of the white savior, but I just don't expect how you want these stories to play out. For me, it's a positive message. We should be working together. We should fucking stand up for those that are oppressed. And this film was set during a time when that was the case. You can have your issues with this film, yeah, whatever, but I enjoyed it and I think the message is positive. So, yeah. Oh, also, it is fucking gorgeous. Like, one of the better looking films I watched last month, and I watched some pretty good looking films last month. So that's it for the month of January. I watched about 10 films, I think, but these are the only ones I really wanted to share. These are the ones that I had the most positive experience with. I'm not going to use this series to shit talk film and talk about the crap stuff I watch, because I don't want that to be the case. We need to be, like, just in general, more positive. Talk about the things you love rather than the things you hate and all that jazz. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, be sure to let me know. If you've seen any of these and have your own thoughts on them, be sure to let me know. We gotta get a conversation going, because fuck it. That's the most fun thing about film, is we can all have our different opinions and we can all talk about it in a reasonable way without just, screaming and shouting at each other, which the rest of the world is doing. So let's not do it over film, please. I may do this again next month. Again, it's entirely dependent on what I watch and if I can go through the effort of doing this, because it took me like 2 hours to film this goddamn video. But I'm going to leave you with one last thing. If you love film, keep loving it. If you think you're not huge on film, you just haven't watched the right stuff. And honestly, there's so much out there that you will find something you enjoy. So, yeah, love film.